So, you want to become a lawyer. Well, becoming a lawyer isn't the hard part. Getting into law school isn't even the hard part. You're probably smart enough to do both. The real challenge is surviving everything that comes after. Because nobody tells you that the law isn't just about justice. It's a business. A very expensive business. Most people imagine themselves wearing a sharp suit, confidently walking into a courtroom, objecting every 30 seconds, and somehow walking out with a six-figure paycheck. You can thank Hollywood for that fantasy. In reality, many lawyers spend more time reading contracts than arguing in court. Some barely see the inside of a courtroom their entire careers. In the United States alone, there are over 1.3 million licensed lawyers. Yet not all of them are making partner at a prestigious law firm. Some are drowning in student debt. Others are billing 12 whole days just to stay competitive. Because once you step into this profession, you quickly realize something. The courtroom is only a tiny part of the business. The real money follows the paperwork. So, let's say you're serious about this. The first thing standing between you and that fancy law office isn't talent. It's time, and a frightening amount of money. In the United States, becoming a lawyer usually means 4 years of university, followed by 3 years of law school. 7 years in total, assuming life doesn't throw a surprise exam your way. Then comes the bar exam. The test that's famous for making brilliant students question every life decision they've ever made. Here's where it gets interesting. The average law school graduate leaves with over $130,000 in student debt. And graduates from top private schools can easily owe more than $200,000. Congratulations! You haven't argued a single case yet, but you've already signed one of the biggest financial contracts of your life. Nobody mentions that part in the brochure. And just when you think you're done, licensing fees, background checks, continuing legal education, and professional memberships start showing up. Becoming a lawyer isn't just earning a degree. It's buying a ticket into one of the most expensive professions on earth. Because that's where the business really begins. Now, here's the part that surprises most people. Lawyers don't get paid for winning cases. They get paid for their time. It's called the billable hour, and it's the engine that keeps the legal industry running. Imagine you're a corporate lawyer charging $400 an hour. Sounds incredible. Until you realize your firm expects you to bill around 2,000 hours a year. Not work 2,000 hours. Bill 2,000 hours. Meetings, emails, research, contract reviews, client calls. If it can't be billed, it often doesn't count. The biggest law firms, often called big law, charge anywhere from $800 to over $2,500 an hour for senior partners. Some elite firms in New York and London now bill more than $3,000 an hour for their top lawyers. And believe it or not, clients still pay. Why? Because losing $1 billion lawsuit is a lot more expensive. That's why the highest paid lawyers aren't always the ones standing in front of a jury. They're sitting in conference rooms helping companies avoid court altogether. Because in law, preventing a disaster is usually worth far more than winning one. Here's another thing. Law school doesn't put on the brochure. Not all lawyers earn the same paycheck. In fact, the gap is enormous. A public defender might earn $65,000 to $90,000 a year, spending every day defending people who can't afford a lawyer. A family lawyer handling divorces might do well in a busy city, but they're also dealing with some of the most emotionally exhausting clients you'll ever meet. Then you have corporate lawyers advising billion-dollar companies on mergers, acquisitions, and tax strategies. First-year associates at America's biggest firms now start on salaries of around $225,000 a year before bonuses. So why doesn't everyone just become a corporate lawyer? Well, because those jobs are brutally competitive. The biggest firms recruit from the top law schools, expect you to work 70 to 90 hours a week, and somehow still smile during client meetings. You're not just selling legal knowledge anymore, you're selling availability. Because in big law, your calendar belongs to the client, and your sleep schedule is merely a suggestion. Money isn't the only thing this profession takes from you. It also takes your time. and sometimes your sanity. The American Bar Association has repeatedly reported high levels of stress, depression, and burnout among lawyers. It's not difficult to see why. Imagine spending your day negotiating million-dollar contracts, reading hundreds of pages of legal documents, then getting an email at 11:47 p.m. saying, "Need this by tomorrow morning." Apparently the phrase work-life balance never made it into the legal dictionary. And here's the catch. The higher you climb, the more clients expect you to be available. Weekends become workdays. Holidays become, "I'll just answer one email." One email somehow turns into 4 hours. The irony is that many lawyers spend their careers helping clients solve problems while quietly accumulating problems of their own. Because in this business, you're not only selling legal advice, you're selling your time. And eventually, time becomes the most expensive thing you own. Now, here's something that keeps a lot of lawyers awake at night. You don't have to break the law to lose your career. Sometimes, one mistake is enough. Miss a filing deadline, forget a clause in a contract, give advice based on outdated regulations. If your client loses millions because of your mistake, don't be surprised when the next legal document with your name on it is the lawsuit against you. That's why most lawyers carry professional liability insurance, often called malpractice insurance. Depending on the type of law you practice, premiums can range from a few $1,000s to well over $20,000 a year. It's basically insurance against being sued for doing your job. And then there's reputation. In law, your name is your brand. One ethics violation, one dishonest client trust account, or one public disciplinary action can undo years of hard work. Clients don't just hire the smartest lawyer, they hire the one they trust, because in the legal profession, it takes decades to build a reputation, and sometimes only one afternoon to destroy it. So when do lawyers actually become wealthy? Usually, when they stop thinking like employees and start thinking like business owners. See, an associate at a law firm gets paid a salary. A partner gets a share of the firm's profits. That's a completely different game. The largest firms in the United States generate billions of dollars every year. And equity partners at firms like Kirkland and Ellis, Latham and Watkins, or Cravath can earn well over $3 million annually. Some of the top rainmakers take home more than $10 million in a single year. But here's the funny part. They're not working 10 times harder than the junior lawyer. They've simply built relationships that bring in clients worth millions. In law, clients are assets. If a multinational company trusts you with its legal work, that relationship can generate revenue for decades. Because eventually, you're no longer being paid to practice law. You're being paid because people trust you to solve problems they can't afford to get wrong. Here's something law schools didn't have to worry about 20 years ago: artificial intelligence. Today, software can scan thousands of legal documents in minutes, summarize contracts, search case law, and even draft the first version of agreements that used to keep junior lawyers busy for days. The work that once justified hundreds of billable hours can now be done in a fraction of the time. Does that mean lawyers are disappearing? Not even close. It means the easy work is. Clients aren't willing to pay $500 an hour for something a machine can produce in 10 minutes. They're paying for judgment, negotiation, strategy, and the ability to stand behind legal advice when millions of dollars are at stake. If an AI makes a mistake, nobody sues the software. They sue the lawyer who signed the document. So the profession isn't dying, it's changing. The lawyers who learn how to use technology will probably work faster and earn more. The ones who ignore it may find themselves competing with software that's available 24 hours a day and never asks for a coffee break. Because in law, just like every other business, the people who adapt usually outlast the people who resist. So you want to become a lawyer. You probably imagine your future clients as innocent people who desperately need justice. Sometimes that's true. Most of the time, your clients are simply people trying to protect money. A company isn't calling you because someone got hurt. They're calling because a mistake in one contract could cost them $20 million. A wealthy family isn't paying you to argue dramatically in court. They're paying you to make sure their wealth survives another generation without the taxman taking a larger bite than necessary. Here's the sarcastic part. Law school spends years teaching you how to win arguments. The highest paid lawyers often get paid to make sure the argument never happens. In 2024, the global legal services market generated more than $1 trillion. And the overwhelming majority of that money never came from criminal trials. It came from contracts, mergers, intellectual property, tax planning, corporate compliance, and businesses paying lawyers to prevent disasters before they begin. The courtroom makes television. Prevention makes fortunes. That's the first lesson most new lawyers learn far too late. The biggest paychecks don't usually belong to the lawyer who gives the best closing speech. They belong to the lawyer whose name never appears in the newspaper because they solved the problem before anyone even knew there was one. So you want to become a lawyer. Here's where the brochures become very selective. Yes, you've probably seen headlines about corporate lawyers earning $215,000 to $250,000 a year at elite firms in New York or London. Those jobs exist. They're also some of the hardest jobs to get in the profession. The median lawyer in the United States earns far less. Many lawyers working in criminal defense, family law, or small-town practices make between $70,000 and $130,000, depending on experience and location. And then there are new graduates. Some leave law school with over $150,000 in student debt, only to land jobs paying less than they expected. It's a strange business. You can wear a tailored suit, argue in court, drive home looking successful, then spend the evening calculating whether your monthly loan payment will clear your bank account. The law doesn't pay everyone equally. It pays according to the problems you solve. The bigger the client's problem, the bigger your invoice becomes. That's the part most students discover after graduation. Here's another surprise. Some of the richest lawyers you've never heard of have never delivered a dramatic closing argument in front of a jury. They're sitting in skyscrapers negotiating billion-dollar mergers, helping companies avoid taxes legally, registering patents, or making sure a celebrity's contract doesn't fall apart halfway through a movie production. In fact, many corporate lawyers spend their entire careers inside boardrooms instead of courtrooms. Sounds boring, until you realize one signature on a merger worth $20 billion can generate millions of dollars in legal fees. Here's the sarcastic part. Television convinced everyone that the courtroom is where lawyers become legends. The balance sheet tells a different story. The legal profession quietly revolves around paperwork, thousands of pages of it, because every contract signed without a lawsuit is another success that nobody applauds. That's the irony of being a lawyer. The better you are at your job, the less likely anyone will ever know your name. So you want to become a lawyer. By now you've probably realized the degree isn't the biggest investment you'll make. Your reputation is. Unlike most businesses, lawyers don't have products sitting on shelves. They sell trust. A client is handing you their company, their family, their fortune, or sometimes their freedom, and trusting you not to make a mistake. Here's the sarcastic part. You can spend 7 years becoming a lawyer, then spend the next 20 years convincing people you're actually good at it. The most successful lawyers don't just collect certificates, they build networks. Every satisfied client becomes a potential referral. Every business owner you help introduces another one. Over time, your phone starts ringing. Not because you advertise, but because someone whispered your name in the right boardroom. That's when things change. You stop chasing clients. Clients start chasing you. And in a profession where trust is the currency, that may be the most valuable asset you'll ever own. So after everything we've talked about, 7 years of education, 6-figure student debt, impossible deadlines, endless paperwork, and clients who somehow think their emergency is your emergency, is becoming a lawyer actually worth it? The answer is, it depends on why you're doing it. If you're chasing the image, the expensive suit, the luxury office, and the respect that comes with the title, you'll probably be disappointed. Those things don't arrive with your law degree. They have to be earned. One client at a time. But if you're the kind of person who enjoys solving complicated problems, negotiating high-stakes deals, and building long-term relationships, the profession can be incredibly rewarding. Some lawyers eventually earn more in a year than they once borrowed for law school. The funny thing is, the degree only opens the door. What determines your income isn't the certificate hanging on your wall. It's the value people believe you bring to the table. Because in the legal world, your reputation is the product, and your name is the brand. So, you want to become a lawyer. Not because television made it look glamorous. Not because someone told you lawyers are automatically rich, but because now you actually know what you're walking into. You'll spend years studying. You'll probably graduate with debt. You'll work longer hours than you expected. You'll miss birthdays, weekends, and more than a few nights of sleep. And somewhere along the way, you'll realize that this profession was never really about winning arguments. It's about solving expensive problems. The lawyers who build fortunes aren't necessarily the smartest in the room. They're the ones clients trust with their biggest decisions, their businesses, and sometimes their entire future. Because every contract signed, every lawsuit avoided, every merger completed, and every crisis resolved is another reminder that people don't pay lawyers for words. They pay for certainty. So, is becoming a lawyer worth it? If you're looking for an easy paycheck, absolutely not. If you're willing to spend years building a reputation that eventually becomes more valuable than the degree itself, then the law can become one of the most rewarding businesses you'll ever enter. Because at the end of the day, lawyers don't sell justice. They sell confidence in moments where mistakes are simply too expensive to make.